Hello, everyone. This morning, we're going to talk about the operational and budgetary impacts of the CARB Advanced Clean Fleet Regulation. This is a five-part video series. It's in conjunction with the Sacramento Clean Cities Coalition, the East Bay Clean Cities Coalition, the Silicon Valley Clean Cities Coalition, NAFA, and also MEMA, the Municipal Equipment Maintenance Association. And your presenters are myself, David Rentschler from the city of Fairfield, and David Worthington from the county of Santa Clara. So, part one, we're going to talk about overall ACF regulation, how the ACT regulation plays a part in it, a little bit about state and local government requirements, what a ZEV is, some of the exempted vehicles, some of the waste and wastewater utility and as well as the transit fleet provisions, and then some of the regulatory language. Part two will cover the exemption process, infrastructure extensions, procurement, some of the fleet reporting requirements, and also more of the regulatory language. Part three is going to go over collaboration, infrastructure planning, infrastructure costs, uh, electricity consumptions, hydrogen fuel infrastructure, overall compliance cost, operational challenges, and regulatory language as well. Part four is going to talk about EV accident damage, vehicle challenges such as battery module replacement, some of the capital and budgetary costs, and more of the regulatory language. And part five will finish up the series with compliance options pathways, strategies, funding resources, and other information. So let's talk about what is the ACF regulation. So on April 28th, CARB Board of Directors approved the ACF regulation. There's three main components. Drayage fleets, those are trucks that travel to and from seaports, airports, rail yards, and other ports of entry. The high priority and federal fleet has its own, and that covers private and federal fleets. And then the state and local government fleet portion, and that covers cities, counties, state, and other government agencies and districts, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So the Advanced Clean Truck Regulation came out first, and it's a companion to the ACF, and it was passed by CARB staff in March of 2022. It did require government fleets to turn in a one-time reporting. If you have not reported yet, please do that as soon as possible. Uh, so the one-time reporting uh, covers all of our vehicles, where they're parked, and what type of vehicles you have in your government fleet. And then the ACT requires OEMs to sell a percentage of their total sales in California as ZEVs. So that begins in the 2024 model year, and it's by type of body. So regardless of the compliance strategy, only ZEVs will be available in the marketplace. So all Class 2B through Class on-road vehicles, beginning with the model year 2036, must be ZEV if they're going to be sold in California. So California is not the only state that is doing this. Section 177 of the Clean Air Act allows states to adopt the California Motor Vehicle Standards. So at the time that we did this, the Advanced Clean Cars was passed in 12 other states. The ACT, Advanced Clean Trucks, has been adopted by 6 other states. And as far as medium and heavy duty ZEV commitments, there are 17 states and Washington, D.C., as well as the province of Quebec up in Canada that have signed MOUs saying that they are going to commit to medium and heavy duty zero emission vehicles as well.
So we're going to cover the state and local government requirements in our 5-part series. We're not going to focus on the other ones, such as drayage or the high priority or federal fleets. So for local and government fleets, again, it applies to cities, counties, agencies, and other government entities. The regulation applies to vehicles that have a gross vehicle weight rating of 8,500 pounds and above, greater than 8,500 pounds. Typically, that's a 3/4 ton truck or larger. It also includes hiring entities such as motor carriers, brokers, governmental agencies, persons, or entities that hire and operate or hires and directs operation of vehicles in California. For state and local government agencies, we have a 50% requirement on all of our purchases beginning on January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2026, if you're using the purchase strategy. And then beginning on January 1st, 2027, that goes to 100%. There are some exemptions and there are some delays if you are a designated county with low population. And we'll get into those a little bit later in our presentations. The other option for compliance is called the ZEV milestone phase-in option. May be beneficial if you already have charging or hydrogen fuel infrastructure in place or will have it in place fairly soon. This regulation divides the groups of vehicles into 3 groups with different percentages and compliance date requirements, as shown in the right-hand portion of this slide. It applies to all your ICE vehicles, and you have to take a total count of your fleet, applicable fleet, and then divide it up, come up with a percentage of how many of those are ZEVs, and then you've got to meet the different percentages again on the right, depending on which group those vehicles are in. There are delays for fueling infrastructure installation in later years, which will be at an increased cost as inflation impacts the cost of installing different types of infrastructure. Only ZEVs will be available to purchase beginning with model year 2036. So when looking at the chart, the areas that are highlighted in red boxes of 2039, you won't be able to purchase anything but a ZEV beginning in 2036. So you need to take that into consideration if you're looking at the ZEV milestone phase-in option. You also must declare that you're using this option by April 1st, 2024. And then after electing to use this option, you can no longer switch back to the state or local government fleet requirements. So it's very important you understand that when choosing this option. There's significant confusion right now in regards to the ACF regulation. Televisions, newspaper, websites, and social media are sharing information that mainly focuses on the high priority, which is your private fleets and federal fleets. What is being miscommunications is all big trucks will need to be replaced by ZEVs beginning or by 2045, and that all these trucks will be battery electric vehicles, which is not true. The actual impact to government fleets, again, if you use the purchase requirement, is 50% of new truck purchases that are over 8,500 pounds gross vehicle weight start in January 1st of 2024 and continue through December 31st, 26. And then beginning on January 1st, 2027, it increases to a 100% requirement. The ZEV definition need to be aware of. Battery electric vehicles are considered ZEVs. Hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles are. Hybrid electric vehicles are not considered ZEVs. It's very important to understand that. And then in a limited capacity, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles are considered ZEVs if they meet a all-electric range requirement, and we've included that definition of how many miles need to be achieved by a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, so you understand what to look for. Right now, manufacturers are focusing on the low-hanging fruit classes such as delivery vans, minibuses, cargo trucks, transit buses, and trucks for interstate commerce. The vocational or work truck designs are forecast to be more available in higher quantities beginning in 2026 based on information supplied by manufacturers.
So now we're going to go over some of the exempted vehicles. As far as non-repairable vehicles, you would have the flexibility to purchase used replacement internal combustion engine vehicles. However, has to be the same configuration with an engine of the same or newer model year as the damaged vehicle. Also, for intermittent snow removal vehicles, you may purchase internal combustion engine vehicles until 2030, and backup vehicle exemption has if you operate less than 1,000 miles per year. Now, all of these require an exemption process that you have to follow, so please make sure you look that up. Excluded are some of vehicles such as school buses, transit buses. Both of those have their own regulation. Military tactical vehicles, vehicles awaiting sale, emergency vehicles as defined by CVC 165, and we're going to go over that in just a minute, as well as some other vehicles, such as the two-engine trucks and workover rigs, and that includes Vactors and Vacons. So think about that when you're going through those exemptions. Next. So let's talk about CVC just a little bit. Section 165 talks about what a emergency vehicle is, and just to point out, public works type vehicles are not exempt. I'm not going to read all this, but please take a look at it and get to understand what is considered an emergency vehicle. Next. So waste and wastewater utilities and transit fleet provisions. So it does provide a little more time for waste and wastewater fleets if they're implementing organic waste diversion programs. So their vehicles must be exclusively using biomethane to fuel the vehicles, and it allows for a deferral to 2030 for eligible fleets who elect to use the ZEV milestone compliance pathway only. Transit fleet exemption. So this temporarily excludes the transit agencies until 2030 if you're subject to the ICT regulation. So this does provide more time for purchasing ZEV support vehicles and maintenance vehicles, so you can focus on electrifying the transit buses. Next. So we talked about regulatory language and reference documentation would be brought up. So here we give you links to the main website, what the final regulation order is for the state and local government agency fleet requirements, as well as the high priority and federal fleet. Next. So for more information, you can sign up for emails and the latest news regarding the CARB ACF regulation. There's a link here. When you get there and the red box that's shown, hit subscribe, and you can subscribe to get emails regarding this. Next.
Thank you to the Clean Cities Coalitions and fleet associations that made this recording possible. Again, thank you to the East Bay Clean Cities Coalition, Sacramento Clean Cities Coalition, Long Beach Clean Cities Coalition, Silicon Valley Clean Cities Coalition, NAFA, and MEMA. All these organizations are what made this recording and recording series possible. Here's our contact information should you have any questions. Appreciate you joining the meeting, and we look forward to future meetings.